Congressman Mario Diaz Balart usually supports President Trump on almost every issue, but he split with him this week on delaying the election.
South Florida's lone Republican congressman had a lot on the plate this week, including the roundtable with Vice President in Miami this week, where the first phase 3 clinical trial started for a COVID-19 vaccine. So why don't we begin right there with the congressman live with us via Skype from Miami. Good morning.
Good morning, Congressman.
Good to be with you all.
Thanks. So let's start that. You heard Jared Moskowitz was with us. You know, everybody is kind of banking across the country on that vaccine, making life normal again. Anthony Fauci this week said don't expect it another year. The first clinical trials at stage 3 is certainly a positive sign. You were right there at the roundtable, Congressman. What can we expect? Give us that inside information.
I think a vaccine is coming relatively soon, and then at record pace. It's interesting. Usually it takes 2 to 3 years, if not more, to develop a vaccine. But this warp speed program that we're on right now, we've seen this taking place now in 4 months. There's not one vaccine that is in stage 3, phase 3. There are multiple vaccines that are in this phase 3 part of actually testing it with live humans. Same thing for treatments for this Wuhan virus, which also I think is very, very, very positive. So I'm actually really optimistic that there will not only be a vaccine in relatively short order, multiple vaccines in relatively short order, but also treatments so that if people do get sick, that there are treatments so that, again, they can go home healthy and as soon as possible.
Yeah, Congressman, as you well know, Congress sets the date of the November general election, the first Tuesday after the first Monday. It's been that way since 1845. This week, however, President Trump said, oh, maybe we ought to delay it. And you rather quickly said, that's not such a good idea. Why isn't it a good idea?
Because states are ready, local governments are ready. Look, the president throws thoughts out there, and then people kind of flip out about that. But it wasn't a proposal; it was just kind of, saying, "Hey, maybe we should." It's not a good idea. We're ready. Obviously, there are some things that do worry me about the elections, but they have nothing to do with the date. What's happening in New York, where the results of a congressional seat are still not in because of the way that they are doing the mail-out ballots. Not to be confused with absentee ballot, which is actually something that works and is very positive.
All right.
Sure.
Excuse me, if I could, then let me follow up here. The president, for the last couple of months, has been railing against mail-in voting, which essentially is absentee voting. He says it would provide a rigged election result. It's fraudulent. How do you feel about mail-in voting? Have you ever done it?
Now, there's a difference, and that's let me correct you there, Michael. He's not against absentee ballots. He has said that publicly multiple times. You and I remember that here in South Florida a number of years ago, there was an election that was thrown out for the mayor. Yeah, I believe it was the city of Miami. And then the legislature outlawed what is actually legal in California, what they call a ballot harvesting, where they send out ballots to everybody. Then they go out and they harvest them. And there we have seen some really, really bad things taking place. But this is not theory. Here in the state of Florida, it was outlawed. And what the president is saying is that we should follow the example of the state of Florida, where there is absentee ballots, a process that works, but let's not follow the process that California made legal, which was outlawed in Florida. Why? Because it was shown to be fraudulent.
Is that said, are you concerned that the way the president talks about this will have some sort of chilling effect on people just afraid to vote who can't show up?
No, because again, the president has been very clear, and I want to make it very clear, that absentee ballots are, I think, a very wise way to move forward, particularly, by the way, in a moment like this. In Florida, remember, many, many years ago, probably a couple decades ago, you all and I are a little bit older to remember this. You had to get an absentee ballot, you had to be out of your voting place, out of the state. Not anymore. Now you can just ask for an absentee ballot. That's a good thing. The fraud that has taken place and took place here. This is not theory. I keep hearing reports in the press. Well, there's no proof that fraud ever happens. Really? Here in Miami, we know that fraud happened because an election was thrown out because of, in essence, ballot harvesting. That is what we should be very careful about. Follow Florida's lead, stop fraud, have a good absentee ballot program. That is what I think a lot of us support.
Yeah. Well, I reported on that 1985 Miami mayor's race, in which there was some absentee ballot fraud, and then state laws were changed. Since then, it seems to be okay.
Absolutely.
Congressman, we don't want to run out of time before I get a chance to ask you about a running mate for Joe Biden, because as you well know, a name that is prominently mentioned these days is Congresswoman Karen Bass of California. And we have learned, a good article in The Atlantic, other reporting, that when she was a young woman, she went to Cuba 8 times when Fidel Castro was in charge. She was a member of the Venceremos Brigade, which supports all the socialist communist principles of the Cuban Revolution. She has since said that she reconsiders that support. But what would it be like for you, do you think, or what would it be like for Joe Biden if, in fact, Karen Bass is selected as his running mate? What would it do in South Florida?
That's interesting. She says she reconsidered, but look at what she sent out when Fidel Castro died. But by the way, let's be very clear. It's not only her. When you look at the record of Joe Biden in normalizing relations, asking nothing in return, taking the Castro regime off the state sponsor of terrorism list, trying to do anything and everything to help consolidate and give legitimacy to that regime, I would actually be surprised if Joe Biden didn't get somebody who agreed with him. It would be devastating for the cause of a free Cuba, for the cause of a free Venezuela, for the cause of a free Nicaragua, if Joe Biden and his policies, and he's already said that he would go back to the policies that existed when he was in the White House as vice president. So it wouldn't surprise me if he got somebody who, like him, did everything possible continuously to help the Castro regime, to help the Maduro regime, and again, even to try to impose an anti-American dictator in Honduras. That's Joe Biden's record. So again, it shouldn't surprise us that the people that he's talking to feel pretty much the same way that he has.
Congressman, right in the short time we have left, our first weekend that we now know there will be no second round of stimulus, at least immediately, while it's stuck in Congress and everybody is home. There are a lot of people across this country, 30 million, about to lose $600 a week, and that is going to be very consequential. With this stimulus in limbo and the debate about how much and how to distribute that, what can you tell us about what comes next and how fast?
Well, look, yeah, Glenna, it's unfortunate because people are hurting, and I think we should be able to come together in a bipartisan fashion. I will tell you that the administration has sent at least 4 proposals to the Speaker Pelosi. She insists on, again, trillions of dollars, including hundreds of billions of dollars to the states. But here's an interesting thing. There's about $500 billion, $500 billion in money that has already been sent to the states that is yet to be spent. And yet she refuses to negotiate unless she is able to put more money to the states, while the states still have money that hasn't been spent. That is absolutely insane. It's time to get real, negotiate in good faith, because people are hurting. And I, for one, I'm willing to support a package that is more limited, that is focused, that helps get the economy going and make sure that people are safe. And yes, those folks who have lost their jobs, we have to be able to help them. But the fact that Nancy Pelosi insists on spending, again, borrowing more money to send it to states when there's $500 billion almost that still hasn't been spent by the states, that's just a definition of insanity.
Congressman, always good to see you. Thank you for being with us today.
My pleasure. Please be healthy.
And you as well. Thank you very much.